Okay, guys, good evening, and you are welcome to class. Don't forget, a thumbs up first is very important. Let's try so that others will be able to find the class. Mm, okay, let's hold on for. Okay, the material is up now. I think so. We have the last class. I believe we stopped library services. That was the last thing we did in the last class. And under library services, we've talked about the different services we have that the library offers. Just hold on while I try to set up. Okay, so we have we've done all this last class, the general library services and the type of. Okay, sorry. Yes, I hope you guys are here already. I'm here alone. Mhm. Do I have people with me here? Okay, Victor or G, you are welcome. Good evening. I trust your day went well. This is GST104, and we have uh, we have done general library services, directional, ready quick, search questions, research questions, all those. We have done that. Vertical files, current awareness, and so on and so. Even interloan, lending services, and so on. Okay, no, I think we stopped on current awareness in the last class. Current awareness in the last class. So we're meant to start with interlibrary loan service. That was where we stopped before we ended the last class. So today we'll start with interlibrary loans. We are still talking about general library services. General library services. And our concern tonight is to continue with those general library services we have. But before we continue, let me quickly remind us the ones we've talked about. From the very beginning, we started with the general library service that we call the reference services. The reference services. We moved on from there to talk about the directional services, where you are trying to locate a particular place in the library. We talk about ready quick reference questions. When somebody can come and ask who is the current president of Ghana or what is the population of Ghana, that is ready or quick questions. Then we have search questions. We've talked about search questions too. They are questions that cannot be met by one single reference source in the library. So there might be a need for the use of variety of sources to answer that kind of question that we call search question. Of course, research questions, you know how critical those ones could be. Here, the user is faced with a research topic that requires comprehensive reference sources in order to provide literature review. We've done this in the last class. I'm just refreshing your memory. Now, we've talked about vertical files and they are important. The vertical files are mostly sources of miscellaneous information. They are sources of miscellaneous information, vertical files. We talk about statistics, of course. So they keep statistics of the users and their activities so that they'll be able to offer professional and tailored services to each member of the library user. Then the current awareness service, which is CAS, like we've done in the last class, maybe we'll start from there again to so that we'll refresh our brain memory more. I don't know if I have people here, or probably I am just here alone. Do I have people here? I'm here alone. Francisca, you are welcome. So it's only two people we have in the class. I hope these guys know that we started class. What time did I put in the meeting? Sorry, on the timetable I dropped 9 p.m. So I believe guys should be here by now. And this is a GST course. This is a GST course. Okay, no problem. Mm. Okay, so let's see this. Current awareness service is defined by Ashikuzama Ashikuzama in 2013 as the establishment of a system for reviewing publications immediately at receipt, selecting information pertinent to the program of the organization served, and recording individual items to be brought to the attention of those people or persons to whom to whose work are related. We've done this in the last class. I'm just refreshing your brain. This is definitely telling you that when we talk about current awareness, it's just like saying, we've just brought in these new books today, oh, so we alert everybody. We have new materials, so new things have come. We record those materials so that we know the date that The Joy of Motherhood by maybe Chino Achebe or something came into the library. We can alert our users. This new book is now in the library. We have new entries today. About 150 new books have been added to the shelves. So you see, that it keeps current record of materials as they come in at the point of receipt, like when they come in, the moment they enter into the library, they are recorded. And the reason why they are being recorded varies. It's not just so that we can count more books that we have in the library. It also helps us to give tailored services, like inform our people, oh, there is this particular person writing on biochemistry. This is a new book on biochemistry. So that person knows that we have a new book, oh, and it's available for loan or for reading. Why do we have interlibrary loan service? That is the next thing we are talking about. But I want us to ask ourselves, why do we have interlibrary loan services? Why? So that will be the next thing we'll be, of course, trying our brains on. That is the next thing we'll read about. Resource sharing and collaboration is one of the new trends in librarianship. A library able to meet the information needs of all its users due to limited resources. Different work into the library, especially the library that is not an academic library, like not meant for those who take, for example, a public library. Just any type of person you can't imagine. A professor may come in, a lecturer may come in, a student may come in, and so different type of people come in with different requests and demands. It's sometimes impossible for one single library to be able to cover all the spheres of interest that users might come in with. So that is why we have interlibrary loan services. It's a kind of collaboration between libraries. Any user in need of any material that is not available in his library informs the reference librarian, who in turn loans such a material from any collaborator for the user. Then the libraries go into partnership and collaboration by the reference librarian on or before the date due. That is library loan services. Library A has a user that came on to request for a book on animal dietary. Library A does not have the book in question, but they have collaboration with Library B, who is in possession of that particular material. So Library A loans that material from Library B so that Library A users will be able to access the material. So it's not the user of Library A now going to Library B himself to go and loan it. It's now Library A loaning the book from Library B and giving it to his own user, which at the end of the day, Library A will eventually return the material to what is it called? Library B. Now that is, sorry, I'm trying to multitask today. Your attendance is not encouraging. This is supposed to be GST course, and you guys are just 20 online. It's okay. Even the 20, none of you gave me a thumbs up. Well done. Oh. All right, so let's continue. We've talked about interlibrary loan services. We'll move to something else now, which is lending services. The next thing we'll be talking about is lending services. Lending services. We are going to do a lot tonight. We'll do a lot tonight. So I expect you guys to kind of make yourself available. We've missed one. Okay, let me ask us a general question. Let me not assume. Did we miss what is it called? GST104 last semester. Last week. I know we missed some classes last week, but I want to know GST104, was it among? So that we'll know how long we are going to take the class tonight. Okay, so guys, I am waiting. I want to know your responses on that so we'll know what we are doing tonight. Yes, good evening. Yes, thank you, Lagos State. Okay, we did not miss it. All right, so it's just going to be our normal 45 minutes then. No problem, so let's move on. We have lending services, which is the next thing. Attempt, I think this mode of lot this semester, when we cover a particular section of the material, then we'll assess ourselves only on that section, not random questions everywhere, just from that section. We'll exhaust that section. It's really going to help us. I'm trying to see that as a new way of seeing better way to improve our reading and performance in the exam. So lending services, the librarian at the circulation section of the library is responsible for charging and discharging of library resources. He will provide information in this regard to the users. For example, only registered library users can borrow books and other library resources. Also, potential library users are required to register before being permitted to use the library. Registration is clientele registration of clientele may be manual or computer based. What they mean is, when we talk about lending service, I hope you know that you can go to a library and borrow a book. And when you borrow the book, the library lends you the book, and you go home with it for some days, depending on the agreement, the day you are supposed to return the book. So that lending services happens to operate like this. You go to the library, but you can't just enter any library that you are not registered with. You must register with the library. They will ask for some demographic information about you, your name, your address, and the rest of them. Sometimes some library even collect, uh, have a glance of your identity card. You understand? So you must have been registered with them before you can attain the level of borrowing books from the library. That's what they're trying to say here. Lending services is in the library, is active in the library. You can borrow a book, but only as a registered student, oh sorry, user. And the method of registering a user varies by library. Where most library register you on the computer now. Some people do it manually on a book. You write your details. There is a book, that's a ledger there that has already been ruled, the table for name, for phone number, for address, for so you fill it manually. It could be that, and it could be computer based. That's what I'm trying to say. But in any case, just know that lending services is only available to users that have been registered under that library. Now, to borrow a book, borrower's ticket form will be filled by the user. There's something we call the borrower ticket form. You know, I know some of you will be wondering that if they say library gives out book, like you can borrow a book from the library, how are they not doing? What if somebody borrows a book and doesn't return it? I know you that one may be in your mind that so if 10 people should go to the library and borrow a book just because library lends book out and then they don't return it, then the library start reducing. They don't just give out books like that. That is the first thing you should know. The service has a way it operates. You must be a member of that library. You must have been registered. Then a borrower's ticket form will be issued to you. You will fill it as the user of that library. This operation could also be computerized. So some modern libraries don't give you a form anymore. You probably fill it on the system there. However, before you are allowed to go home with the book, it must be stamped with the date due stamp. It must be stamped with the date due stamp. There's something called date due stamp in the library. And this is a kind of stamp that shows that this is the day this person is borrowing this book and the day the person is expected to return the book. If you don't return the book on the said date, you are likely going to pay a fine. Now, there is a slip which we call date due slip that all books available for loan carry in the library. This slip is pasted at the loose leaf at the back of every book on circulation in the library. A date due slip, so a slip, date due slip is often found at the back of a book in the library. Any book that is qualified for lending, like they can lend out, will carry that slip. And how does it work? A date due slip usually contains the author's name, title of the book, date due, accessioning number, and call mark. A date due slip usually contains the author's name, title of the book, date due, accessioning number, and call mark. I'm expecting someone to ask a question there, but I don't know if I have anybody online who will be interested. There's something mentioned there that I believe you probably would not understand what that one means. You may of course understand the rest, but that one I am thinking that it's a tendency that you probably will not know what that stands for. But if nobody asks me, I won't say anything too. So, like, what I'm trying to say now is there is one of the contents of a, what do you call it? There is one of the content of a date due slip that was mentioned there. I believe you probably don't know, but you won't ask. I know you guys. Okay. Somebody saying, what is a call mark? Uh, okay. Okay. All right. Let's study the difference between a sessioning number and a call mark. An ascensioning number and a call mark. Now, a sessioning number is the particular or specific number of the copy of that book. You know that you may have one book in the library that has up to 100 copies. So each of those copy has an accessioning number. Probably the first copy may be 0001. Second copy may be assigned 0002. Then 0003 and so on and so forth. So now that is accessioning number. It's the number that identifies the specific copy of that book that they are lending out to you. Now that is number one. And that accessioning number is always given, is always ascribed to each book based on the time it came in and the order that is already on ground. So if last month we got 200 copies of The Joy of Motherhood, and this month now they brought in 500 copies, this new 500 copy will start from 201 because we already had 200 copies in the library before. So they arrange accessioning number in order of acquisition, how those items came into the library or when they came into the library. Like if we have some before, we just continue adding, and then now accessioning number is constant. Another thing you should learn about it, it doesn't change. It only increases. But if this book is number 0, no other book, no matter how many copies of it eventually come later on, none of it will become 002 again. It will only keep increasing. The number will only keep increasing. So accessioning number is always constant. Or call mark. The call mark indicates the shelf located. That's one thing. The call mark indicates the shelf where the book is located. That is one thing call mark represents. Then another thing that call mark represents is it could be based on a classification system that they use in the. Some use Dewey Decimal, some use Library of Congress. We will soon learn about that. We'll learn about it in this material too. Library of Congress, Dewey Decimal, and the rest of them. So it could be call mark could be based on the classification system being used in the library that they use to come up with that call mark. But call mark can change. So if the classification system they are using changes, the call mark of a book will also change. But the accession number is always constant. Now, let me give you an example. For instance, if you have a book now that is number 1000 or 12,345, let just check the chat box. I've dropped an example there of accession number and call mark. So for call mark can be 005 point something DXY, that is a call mark based on the classification system used, the shelf number, the combination of so many things like the shelf number, the classification being used, and so on and so forth. Now, for a section number, it is the number of the copy of that book as it is available in the library. So I think we've done justice to those two big words. Now, this is an example of a date due slip from National Open University of Nigeria, Learning Resource Center, University Library, University Village Plot. That's the address. This is how a date due slip looks like, that is being issued to the user. that want to borrow a book. Now, in order that this book may be put to the best use, comma, this book is due on the latest date stamped below. A fine of 100 naira per day will be charged for each day overdue. What is the date stamp? 24th August 2019. Date due slip. Now, this is a date due slip. You see the content of a date due slip. It shows a kind of agreement. The date the book was lent out or borrowed from the library. The consequence of not returning it on the day or the dates as agreed by the signing, or the date due slip rather. So this is how it looks like. So when you go to a library and they issue you something like this, you know what it means. It's a date due slip. You say, this book you are borrowing from us, we are expecting you to return it latest August 4th, 2026. So the time of or the length of time a book can be borrowed depends on the library's policy. The length of time, whether they will say, okay, we give you this book for 1 month, we give you this book for 1 year, we give you this book for 2 days or for 1 week, it's all dependent on what the policy the library is operating by. The policy the library is operating by. That is what the length of days or time in which a book can be borrowed will be dependent on. So the what's another thing, that the library's policy also determines the number of books a user can borrow at a time. The number of books and the duration of time a book can be borrowed differ with student and staff. The policy most times give more time and books to staff than student, and you should know the reason for that. I don't think we need to start digging into why that is the case. So we have learned about lending services and interloan services this night, and we talked about current awareness services in last class. The opposite, or the second part, or the let me not say the word opposite of CAS, which is current awareness, is open access. Well, let me not say opposite, but let's read and you understand now. Now, to know what book to borrow, the user may check the various catalogs, which could be manual or electronic. Yes, to know what type of book to borrow, you may need to check the catalog is what now we have: electronic catalog and manual. That manual is somehow hectic. It's a whole lot of work. But of course, the electronic is very simple to you just switch through the system and see the books that are available, especially on the topic you are interested in, and then you borrow it. Now, for example, we have an example of catalogs. We have open access catalog, which is opaque. Open access catalog. That one is an electronic catalog. It's not a manual one. It's not written on paper and pen. It is electronic. I am dropping icebreakers, and it seems you guys are not online. No responses. I hope it's not like there is ad on this meeting. This one that your response is very low. Hello. So when the user consults an open access catalog, he can search by subject, title, or author. You know what this means now. You are looking for a book in the library and they give you the catalog, which is an electronic one. It's either you sort it by authors, it will show you all the authors available, or you sort it by book titles, it will show you all the book titles available, or even subject that the book is dealing with. Those are the things you find in an electronic catalog. The class mark indicates the location of the book on the shelf. Once the book is retrieved from the shelf, the user can now go straight to the circulation desk with it for charging. The reader could return the borrowed book before the date due if he has finished using it. But if he hasn't finished using it before the expiration of the date due, he could go back to the library with the book to renew if such book is not on reserve. Do you see what they are trying to say? Instead of you just going with the book and not returning it on the date due because you see if you are using it and not coming back to acknowledge that I'm still using it to renew your your lending or your date due slip. It means you start paying the fine that is written on the date due slip. But if you don't want to pay fine on that day that it is due, you have to go back to the library and say, okay, please, I am still in need of this book. Then you renew as if you want to borrow it afresh, that same book. If the user keeps the book after expiration date at return, he must pay the fine of 100 naira depending on the library per day. This fine is to discourage users from holding tight to library's materials for long and for them to have consideration for other library users who may also need such a book. You should know that you are not the only one using that library, and you are not the only one that will probably need that book that you have come to borrow. So it is proper that you return the book on the date due, or otherwise go to renew your lending period. So that is that for that. We still have some things to read about it. Okay, so the first daily task of the circulation department is the shelving of all books consulted by library users the previous day. The library users usually advise to leave consulted books on the reading tables and in the carrels. So they are not expecting you to go to the shelf to return the book. I know that there are some staff where, if you try this in some academic library or in school library, especially all these primary school library and academic library like institution library, they will shout on you and say, don't you know where you picked the book from? Why? Because they don't want to go through the wahala of being the one to go and arrange it again when you are gone. So, but the proper thing is you are not meant to go and return the book to the shelf yourself because you will not get the arrangement. Finish your whatever you are doing, leave it there on the table and get out of the library. That is the proper thing. So this is an information. If you go to the library now and the circulation officer or the desk officer there is saying, make sure you return the book to the shelf, you should know you're right. It's not really the right thing that you'll be the one to go and arrange it because you will cause some commotion in the order of things in the shelf. So the circulation staff is expected to gather this book first thing in the morning, while statistics is taken of the books consulted by the users. So what that will help the circulation staff to do is to help know how many users visited the library yesterday. These books are then arranged on the book trunk in a classified order and wheeled to the shelves where they will be appropriately shelved subject by subject. These shelves are usually labeled at the outer sides front and by the sides according to subject. You know, if you have been to a library before, you understand what they are trying to say. When you look at the shelves, you see different labels on those shelves. We have another general library service which we call reservation service. I hope you guys are still with me. I think we should not rush. Okay, we still have time. So we have another thing we call reservation service. What does it mean? It means reserving heavily used material. Now, reservation service is very important in academic and school libraries because there are some materials that are heavily used and stand the risk of being stolen or mutilated if such materials are kept on open shelves. Reserved materials cannot be lent out. Reserved materials cannot be lent out. is not something, those are materials you can't borrow. Those are materials you can't borrow. Reserved materials cannot be lent out. They are materials you can't borrow. Okay, they are kept in a restricted area where they could be loaned out for a limited period. There is a question in TMA on this reservation service. You will meet it in your TMA when the TMA start. It says, why do we reserve uh, materials? Or what are reserved materials? Those are heavily used materials. Heavily used materials. I think the answer is something close to heavily used material. You see it when you start your TMA. TMA questions are mostly constant. So personal books from lecturers can be kept for their students in the reserve collection room. In the reserve collection room. So that is work of reservation service. Heavily used materials that can stand the risk of being stolen will be reserved. Then we have user education. User education, this is now teaching the users of the library how to use the library, equipping them with proper library education. Now, user education equips users with adequate knowledge on the use of the library. There is another question on TMA on this user education. You will likely see it in your TMA this semester. So it enables users to effectively and efficiently use the library resources. Excuse me. This can be in form of library orientation or classroom instruction. Orientation involves taking a group of users on a guided tour of the library, showing them this side is for storybooks, this side for animal science, this one for human physiology, chemistry, this side for physics, this side, you are showing them around, a tour guide. So at the end of the tour, there is usually a special section with the group to discuss the various activities of the library and how readers could benefit from services of the library. That is user education. You are trying to educate the user on everything that is there in the library and how to effectively engage with those things and get the best out of them. In the case of classroom instruction, user education is a credit earning course. Library activities are integrated with the curriculum of students who are expected to earn credit for the course. Like this use of library course you are doing now, of course, is going to give you 2 credit. Yes, 2 credit units rather. It's going to give you 2 credit units to be added to your CGPA. Why? Because you are going to it. So what we're trying to say is that user education can come in 2 forms. It can come in the a tour through the library, a guided tour through the library, which is the one that talks about the library part. You understand? Let me try to get the picture clearly for you guys. The user education can come either as a library orientation, which is the one of taking a tour through the library to know how the library looks like, what are there, and the things they are used for. And the other one is classroom instruction. User education can also come in classroom instruction, where you are learning about library as a course, which will earn you a credit unit. So let me ask you a question. It's an icebreaker. It's an icebreaker. Okay, someone says my screen is blurry. Please increase your resolution or your quality. It may be from you. Maybe the quality you set is 144. 144 will be low. Increase it. You will get it clearer. I'm not sure it's from my side. It's very clear from my side. It's your network or the quality you set your YouTube to. In the case of classroom instruction, user education is a credit earning course. Library activities are integrated. Okay, we've done that. So the objective of the course is to teach students. The objective of the course is to teach students like what you are doing in this GST104 Use of Library. the skills that will enable them exploit the resources of the library, and more importantly, to assist the student in the research methodology course, which is often compulsory in most undergraduate programs. What they're trying to say is that if you go through this GS104 very well, you will get enough ideas, knowledge that you need to be able to write your final year project yourself without going to pay somebody 50,000, 70,000 to write project for you. All the knowledge you will need to come up with a very good research topic and defend it and write it correctly will be given to you in this course. And the next class, we will continue with specialized library services. May I remind you guys that we are talking about the two types of library services we have: the general library services and the specialized library services. All the ones we have talked about so far, is it loaning services, interlibrary loan services, lending services, research questions, search questions, and so on and so forth. All of them are all general library services. They fall under general library services. It is in the next class that we will start with specialized library services, where we'll start talking about different types of services that fall under that. And you now learn the difference between SDI and CAS, which is CAS, current awareness services, and selective dissemination of information. Having said this, I want to believe that we have done justice to this class tonight, and this is where, okay, oh, the service is not okay. All right, sorry about that, but this is where we actually end the class, and I hope you guys have gotten something tonight. So in the next class, we kick from specialized library services as we go through them. Do enjoy the rest of your night. Have a wonderful night rest.